There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with another tag, tipsy tag. We'll see how fast the wine flows. Not tipsy yet, stay tuned. This is the Anti-TBR Tag, which was created by Nicole and her books, and I was tagged. It was quite lovely to be tagged by one of my new favorite booktubers, Ben of Doom Antidote. I've put a link to both of their videos in the show notes, and you must check out Ben's channel if you haven't discovered it already. You're in for a real treat. This is the Anti-TBR Tag, where the purpose is where you're supposed to bitch about books you don't like and writers you don't like, so count me in. So, to make it a little bit interesting, except for one question where I don't have a choice, I'm going to confine my answers to literary fiction because that's all I read and that's all that's worth reading. So, I'm going to choose books and authors who write literary fiction that I don't like. Otherwise, it'd be just too easy. A little bit of contemporary fiction when necessary to choose answers for this tag. So the first one is a popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. And so many choices, but I've gone with one that I don't hear so many people talk about now, but was very popular. I believe it won the Booker, and it was a Canadian novel, and everything I've heard about it is just like, bleh. Life of Pi by Jan Martel. Isn't it about a boat trip across the ocean with a little boy and a pig and a duck or something? It just sounds so stupid, and apparently it's kind of metaphorical or something. Oh my god, I'd rather stick pins in my eyes. No thank you, I'm good. Number 2, a classic book or author you don't have an interest in reading. And again, even within classic literature, I've tried to come up with one that I maybe haven't talked about much, or not recently, because you know that I would talk about Henry James and Charles Dickens, but that's gotten old. I'm going to choose Moby Dick. I don't know why I would ever want to read that book. It just sounds ghastly, horrendously boring, and I just don't care. I'm not that interested in ships. I'm not that interested in whales, but I am interested in the second word of the moving on. But no thank you. I don't think I'll ever read it. Oh, another one, War and Peace. I don't think I'll ever read that. And look, actually they're all coming to me now. War and Peace and James Joyce's Ulysses. No. I would read other of Joyce's. I loved his short story The Dead, and I think I've read the complete collection that it came from, but I don't remember if it was that long ago. And maybe some of his other novels I'd like to read. And Tolstoy, I have read his last book, a novella called Gunga Din or something. What was it called? Haji Murat. Quite like that. I am interested in Anna Karenina, but not War and Peace. No thank you. Number 3, an author whose books you have no interest in reading. And I don't know about many of this author's books, but based on the one book that won all the prizes, if they're all like that, I have no interest in reading. And that's the African-American novelist Paul Beatty, who won something. He won the Booker. That's what he won. He won the Booker for The Sellout. And The Sellout sounds like it's wacky satire, and I loathe satire unless it's kind of gentle satire, and I can still kind of care about. I'm allowed within the confines of the gentle satire. I'm still allowed to care about and root for some of the characters. But this one just sounded awful to me. I haven't heard one thing about it that made me want to read it. I assume it's very well written, and I'm just scanning his Wikipedia entry. He pretty much exclusively writes satire, so I think I will give a hard pass to Paul Beatty. 3.2, a problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading. So I have chosen one that's very topical. This will probably be the only time I comment about this on my channel. For my answers, unless the question allowed me to, I've purposefully chosen books or authors who I have not read in the past, so that my opinion about whether I want to read the book or the writer is not based on having read anything before. This one I will make an exception because this is my one public comment on Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, who is now a deeply, deeply problematic author, and I will never read anything she writes again unless she comes to her senses and apologizes, because she has recently been quoted as supporting that other transphobe turf that isn't a very good writer and her books are crap, and I don't need to mention her name, but Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie made some questionable comments about transgender stuff a few years ago, and I really gave her the benefit of the doubt. Thought that she'd kind of dug herself out of that hole, but it is now a deep chasm and I'm done with her. I have enjoyed a couple books by her, but she is dead to me and you will never hear me mention her again, other than to diss her further if anybody gets me going, but she is trash. And if you disagree with me, just give me a downvote, but I'm not going to engage in a debate in the comments section. Because I'm not going to change my mind, and I'm not going to change your mind, and that's fine. But she's dead to me. And I really respected her. I mean, I feel quite heartbroken about it because, I mean, I remember seeing her in Vancouver at the Writers' Festival and being so drawn to her, almost in a sexual way. Like, she has such a charismatic energy. And I have enjoyed her writing, and I have had a lot of respect for her, but not anymore. 4, an author you have read a couple of books from and have decided their books are not for you. So I have a couple. I could probably go on all night about this topic, but I have a couple that I will mention. Because this one bugs me because I seem to be the only or one of the only people that has this opinion. And that is, I cannot stand the novels of Barbara Comyns, who was a mid-20th century novelist. Not that well known, but her famous novel is The Vet's Daughter. And I haven't tried that one, but I don't care. I have tried and bailed on 2 others by her. She died in 1992. Her books came out late 40s to maybe the 60s or something. The first one I read and hated and bailed on was Who Was Changed and Who Was Dead. Just abysmally bad writing and stupid premise. And then Our Spoons Came from Woolworths, which was her second novel from 1950. And just gag-worthily bad writing. I don't understand what people see in her, and that's fine. That it takes all kinds to make a world, as they say. But I just think she stinks. And I've wanted to say that for a long time. I feel so much better. And I follow all these book bloggers, and I like them. I'm interested in their opinions, but they all just masturbate on Twitter about Barbara Comyns, and they're, oh, I found a new one, and it's like, oh my god, I would rather read Dan Brown than Barbara Comyns. Oh my god. Anyway, hope they don't watch this video. The other one is Zadie Smith. I've tried her books, and I didn't like White Teeth, her first one, and I've bailed on everything else I've tried. The one about the singer from a couple years ago, got halfway through that, and I just couldn't stand it, and I tried her fairly recent essay collection, not the one that's just come out during the pandemic, but the one before that, because I thought, well, she's so intellectual. Maybe her brilliance will appeal to me through essays, whereas I hate her intellectualism in her fiction. But no, I couldn't stand her essays either. So she is not for me. Controversial opinion number 7,902. And if you're starting to wonder whether I'm a sexist pig or something, just know that I have purposely chosen books that are the kind of books and the kind of writers that I typically like. So I'm not talking about a whole bunch of men, because men can't write very well. So I'm not even going to waste my time talking about how many of them suck, because most of them do. Number 5, a genre you have no interest in, or a genre you tried to get into and couldn't. So I'll do a mini rant, but I'll try to keep it minimalist. I hate genre fiction, and I have kind of come out of the closet in my recent comments where I used to kind of couch it. Everybody likes what they like, and it's just not really for me. Well, that's true. I still believe that, but I hate it, and I think it sucks. I try not to judge you for liking it. I try not to. But I just think that fiction that follows any kind of a formula is trash. So, none. And it's contaminating literary fiction, all this sci-fi fantasy that's creeping into literary fiction. When I feel genre conventions starting to intrude, it's the quickest way to a bail. I'm a genre policer for sure. Did I say that out loud? 6, a book you have bought but will never read. So I have a couple here that I haven't yet unhauled. Well, actually, one I've just recently unhauled, and one that I'm going to use this video as an occasion to unhaul it. But this is the one I recently unhauled. Beauty is a Wound by Eka Kurniawan. Indonesia's most famous writer. And I bought it. It was a cover by. It's one of the most gorgeous soft cover books I've ever seen. And it was on the shelf where Kenji, my husband, pulled all the books off one shelf, and I committed to reading, bailing on, otherwise dealing with all the books on that shelf in 2020. And in that context, I finally read the back of the book. And it's magical realism, and I can't stand magical realism. And I think I also read a few Goodreads reviews to confirm that it wasn't going to be for me, and it's not going to be for me. So this is one that I bought, looked forward to giving a try, and finally did my homework and read the back and did some more research, and no, it's gone. And this one, I won't get into my New Year's resolutions, but I have a few, so stay tuned for that. But I will just give you a little bit of a tease about one of them, which is that I really need to start doing more of that basic, quote-unquote, research about books and kind of doing a gut check about what I love and what I hate before I acquire books, kind of willy-nilly. So here's one that I was so curious about because it won the Governor General's Award, I believe it was, last year. I think it was last year. And I wanted to try it. But I didn't actually sit with myself and say, self, this is one of the most triggering, most hated storylines in your recent reading life. What the hell is wrong with you? And that came to me when I was having a conversation with my dear friend and distant cousin, Mary Jean. And she said how much she hated it because of exactly the same reason that I will probably hate it. And I've decided that I'm not going to even try it. All of which, are you ready for me to show you the book after all that preamble? Canadian novel, 5 Wives by Joan Thomas. And it is about a group of Christian missionaries in Ecuador. And there's 5 missionaries and 5 wives, and the missionaries are all murdered, and it's what happens to the wives after. I cannot stand the idea of a missionary. And I read a Japanese novel, Shushaku Endo's Silence, 1966 novel by Shushaku Endo, and I absolutely hated it because it's about a group of European, I forget which country, Holland, I think, Christian missionaries that come to Japan in the 16th century or whatever, and they're captured and tortured, and most of them are killed by the authorities because they don't want Western influence to come into the country. Well, I didn't think that they should have been tortured and killed, of course. But I was equally horrified by the fact that Christian missionaries would go to any country and try to contaminate people who were lucky to escape all the evils of Christianity and to try to perpetrate it on them, that I hated that novel so much. It was just, I didn't rejoice in their torture and killings, but they kind of deserved it. So that experience didn't even dawn on me when I sought this novel out, and Mary Jean said, I couldn't stand all that missionary crap, and what the hell were the missionaries doing in Ecuador, for God's sakes? And I thought, yeah, why did I buy this book? So it's going out in the trash. Getting all worked up again. 7. A series you have no interest in reading, or a series you started and have DNF'd. I will do the latter, and because it's kind of timely. Cici Dangarembga, a Zimbabwean writer, her 3rd novel in her, I don't know if she's finished, I hope the hell she is, This Mournable Body, was made the short list for the Booker, and I read that a couple of years ago. I read half of it and bailed, but before that I read, because it's the 3rd in a series, I read Nervous Conditions, which I think was published in 1988, and then The Book of Naught, which is the 2nd book in the series, and then This Mournable Body came out maybe a couple of years ago. And I thought Nervous Conditions was okay, like 3-star read. The Book of Naught is one of the worst books that I've ever not bailed on. It's just terrible. It's just abysmally bad. I mean, the writing is so bad that I couldn't follow the story, and This Mournable Body was no better. Now, that's my very subjective opinion, and I am not Zimbabwean. I have a very different life experience, and I have, in the last few months since This Mournable Body made the rounds of the Booker, I have seen some fascinating reviews on BookTube and on Goodreads. They read a very different book than I read half of. And I thought, as I was trying to open myself to their perspective of these very glowing, positive reviews, thinking, well, I kind of like to read a book like that, but that wasn't my experience of this book. This book I thought was so badly written. Its absence of any redeeming literary quality whatsoever annoyed me so badly. But these very fine, very smart readers, had a very different experience. So that's just example number 7005 of the fact that we all read different books when we read the same book. But I thought it was abysmally bad, and I'm so glad it didn't win. Oh my god. I have a full review of the first two and a bail review in one video. I'll put a link to that, and I'm not much more tactful there than I have been just now. So if you don't want to watch it, please don't. As I always hasten to add whenever I talk about Cici Dangarembga, I think that you should read We Need New Names by No Violet Bulawayo, because that is one of my favorite African novels and covers a lot of the same ground and is a deliciously literary novel that is in my heart, and I want to read more Zimbabwean writers because I want to read good literature from Zimbabwe. Number 8, a new release you have no interest in reading. There's so many, but I've picked out 2 to talk about. One is Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. It's her second novel to be translated. Her first one was The Convenience Store Women, and I had no interest in that. It just sounded really like not a Sean book. Very popular, booktube darling. I just took a pass on that. And this one just sounds stupid. Some very surprising ending. No other novel has had such a shocking ending. It just sounds really juvenile and stupid. I don't know what the ending is, but I'm just not drinking that Kool-Aid. Thank you very much. And let's end on a politically correct note, because I can be. American Dirt by Janine Cummins. It's just offensive. I mean, it's a kind of a thriller thing anyway, so I don't care about it. But what an obscene example of how overly white and colonialist and stupid publishers are, that book got all the fanfare it did, and it just kind of fell apart because people that know about these issues, like immigration and the border, of course they reacted the way they did. What is wrong with people? So, nope, trash. No thank you. All right, this was fun. Thank you, Ben. Are you sorry that you tagged me? I will tag a few people. I'm going to tag Juan of Just One Reader because he's very politically incorrect. I would love to hear his thoughts on these questions. And Greg of Supposedly Fun. Nell and Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. I couldn't see where they had been tagged yet. Ariel of She Wants the Diction. Thanks for watching.